Evan Fisher here with Adelle Archer, the queen kingpin of grief wellness, just total pioneer, and just knock your socks off founder of Eterneva. Uh, and so, first off, welcome, Adelle.
Thank you. Thank you, Evan. I've never been called a kingpin before. That's pretty awesome.
Well, something to that effect, equally esteemed. I don't know. I just
Oh.
make words up, right? Uh, so, first, before we dive in, I have to give a little bit of a quick disclaimer. I am so much in love with the company and everything that you and your team have done with it, um, that I wanted to become an investor in this personally, and actually uh, double down in this round, because it's you guys have really got it going on. It's so fantastic. But I want to sort of quickly turn it over to you. Can you give us, I mean, your now very finely tuned pitch of just some background and tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're super lucky to have you guys as investors. That was, as soon as that was an option, I was like, heck yeah, after all of the value that you brought, and we'll get into that. But yeah, at a high level, what Eterneva does is we're a grief wellness brand that celebrates people when they pass away, by making real diamonds from the carbon in their ashes or hair. And we do this for both people and pets. And I think what is really different about what Eterneva is doing is, first of all, it's more than just a beautiful way to honor somebody. We've really designed a grief healing journey around the diamond creation process.
Right, because
So
it's an
it's
experience.
it's a whole experience. Absolutely. So every month we send pictures and videos and updates. And it was pretty cool. Baylor actually studied our customers and our process and found 82% of people coming out the other side said that this helped them find healing and meaning and serve their grieving process. And then the other thing that I would say that's really unique about Eterneva is we're really talking about lost loved ones and end of life in a very approachable way. I think in a way that is just really resonating with our culture today. So if you go on our TikTok, for example, we have pretty much every single week a video going viral on TikTok. We're a very storytelling driven brand. And we're just sharing the stories of these amazingly remarkable people and, just helping destigmatize something that is one of the most universal experiences we're all going to go through. So why not be more human and authentic about it? So that's Eterneva in a nutshell.
It's fantastic overview because I when we first spoke, it was just one of those things where uh, I had to look into what you guys were doing, and it was kind of like a revelation, and it's one of those things where when you experience it the right way, when you hear about it the right way in the right context and everything, it's you're just sitting there and feeling it for yourself of how would it feel for me if I went through this loss, and I were able to go through this process in a totally different way. Would it be helpful, as an investor, and as a potential customer, like, would I do this? And I was just sitting there thinking, like, oh, heck yeah, it makes so much sense. The benefits were just enormous.
Thank
So
you.
but it was so totally different from a lot of things that we had seen in the past, because we've done consumer, we've done all sorts, um, but this was just something really, really different for us.
Mhm.
How was the first meet? Uh, how was the first meet? Sort of when we first spoke. How was that for you? How did you come into that, like, discussion? How did you find out about us, and what was
Yeah.
the sort of background?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, where we are a category creating brand that is in a space that a lot of people don't think about. And you have to kind of get them over the initial hump of, ooh, do I even want to be invested in death care, end of life? And so I
Right,
think the
like maybe a
narrative,
little stigma, or
yeah, totally.
something
Yeah,
there.
like people are just like they have to wrap their head around it for sure. And so I think the narrative really, really matters. And I have lots of thoughts on that. Like just even going from like the seed stage to the Series A stage, you need to have a totally different narrative. But I think the narrative, because of who we are and what we're building, was all that more important. So really the problem I was trying to solve, when I found you guys was, okay, great. I have this awesome deck. It's really long and it's very vision driven.
It was really
It's very
long.
pretty. It was long and it just did not, we needed to tighten and elevate the narrative and just really nail the pitch. And I think when you go
But
out,
can I pause you there? Why did
yeah,
you need to elevate your pitch? You know what? Because all right, like quick background. You have multi VCs behind you. You know, coming into the Series A,
mhm,
you've done you've done Shark Tank and actually gone forward with Mark Cuban. Like you've been through that whole process and everything. How what I was like sitting there thinking was like, how do you see this Series A being different from the past round or angel investors before? Like, how is that in your mind
mhm.
different? And what was like the lead up to that?
Yeah, 100%. I think um we have a very clear vision of where we're going and a manifesto, if you will, about just really how Eterneva plans to transform this entire space and industry and consumer journey and experience. And that's really kind of the focus of a seed stage pitch, is like the grandiose vision that you and your team kind of uniquely see, the opportunity you see and what you plan to go do about it. And to me, I believe the Series A is, hey, look at what we've already done and the traction that we've proved out. And now let me show you how that is replicable success and how we've built an engine you can bet on and put meaningful investment into and trust that it's going to scale to your expectations. And so, really kind of reworking our narrative from, of course, the vision is really important to get them bought in. But then, really, I think, especially since we're overcoming those objections of, do I want to be in this space? I haven't seen a winner here before. We had to be really crisp on, boom, boom, boom. Here's what we're doing that nobody else has done. And we've already proved it. And so that was really, I think, what you guys helped us do is, make it less of a kind of fluffy deck and more of a like substantial deck that says, damn, this is a company that already has incredible traction. It's going places. It just needs some fuel on the fire.
Right, but you had this deck when originally came, when I first saw it. uh, the
Mhm.
deck, yeah, it was hefty, it was long, but
Like
you had
35.
it was 52, but no one's
My
counting,
God.
so yeah. um
Yes, about that.
but the main difference being going from seed to Series A, was it
Mhm.
really just okay, in seed we've got this like big vision and we're going to do this big thing, and Series A much more focused on, okay,
Our
so
go-to-market strategy. Yeah.
yeah, now we've got it, we've proven it, we can
Mhm.
scale it, and it's like replicate this existing success. Is
That's
that
right. 100%. Exactly. And like, what are the objections that, if somebody's looking at a $10 million round, it's a very different kind of investment assessment that they're making in their mind. So, what do they need to see from us? And how are we kind of proactively objection handling throughout the pitch? Okay, they're thinking about process, they're thinking about scalability, they're thinking about operational leverage, all of those things. So,
did you get a lot of those objections when you ended up going ahead and pitching?
I mean, I definitely had been collecting them from prior rounds, right? Of like, okay, I know we need to overcome industry objections. I know we need to overcome high average order value objections, things of that nature. Something else that I think was really actually wonderful as part of kind of this process we went through was I took like our long draft deck and I actually went to my insiders and did kind of an initial overview pitch and kind of a mock pitch with them and really had them beat it up from, hey, if you weren't invested, what would you be looking at and thinking about if this was a Series A level investment? So really getting their feedback. And I actually, you remember, I brought it to you and I was like, hey, here's like a page and a half of just great notes and feedback from our existing investors.
Yeah, I
So that
remember.
was all great input, I think, that helped us kind of shape the narrative and proactively address some of those objections head on.
Yeah, we went through it, and I mean, it was like fine tooth comb of like, let's adjust this, shift that. Maybe we don't want to do this necessarily,
Yep.
but absolutely have to hammer on this point. Yeah, there's a lot of shaping in the
Mm-hmm.
process. I,
100%.
so coming back to when we originally first met, you found out about us through, I think you mentioned it already.
I think it was a
Uh,
Google search. I mean, I literally think I was looking at like Google searching like fundraising deck, like agency or, designer or something like that. But really was looking for that, who's good at helping develop the deck and what it says, not just how it looks. And I think that
mm,
that is a huge gap in the marketplace that you guys fill so well, because they're really, in my opinion, I did not see anybody else that really had that value prop. A lot of people can make it look pretty, but cannot help kind of challenge you to take it down and tighten it and really nail the narrative. And I think that that needs to be step one. So yeah, that's what I
yeah,
love
and
about
that's and
you guys.
well, I'm glad that we were able to help you guys. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when when we when we originally spoke, though, what was it that, because I know what interested me, and what interested me in working specifically with you and Michael and your team, it was, this is unique. This is somebody who has been through this before, but understands the value of, hey, at least how you communicated it to me when we originally spoke was, you understand the value of preparation, and that yes, it does matter when you're going and asking for that like next big round. So you clearly had your eyes open and a good head on your shoulders, and everything. Uh, from your perspective, though, was there a thing that just made you say like, yeah, definitely, like there's a fit, we should be doing this like ASAP? Was there a like aha, or not really?
Was no, it was your reviews, honestly. Like your reviews sold me. That was just like reading through what people had to say about it, not just like they did a great job, but like really specifically, here's how it was needle moving to work with Evan and Arthur. That like that carries a lot of weight. And I do really spend time kind of like on voice of customer stuff. And when you have reviews like to the level that you guys do, like you can go on a website and be like, okay, they have a high level value prop that sounds great, but then when you really read what people have to say and their experience after the fact, like
Right, because when
that
you
was
have like the general stuff, it's totally different from when somebody's like, I specifically was able to bang 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 do this and whatnot. I mean,
100%.
like when I'm looking at a service, I'm always looking at like, okay, what do the people who are giving 1 star say?
Yeah.
And if that's well written, I'm gonna seriously, I'm just gonna like, almost by default, I'm gonna go find something else. Uh, because if it's like really cohesive and it's like, wow, this person is clearly not crazy, it's like, what's going on here, right?
I feel like you need to look at the 2 stars. The 1 stars are just cranky people. Like they're just
I don't
mad at
know,
the
some
world
people can be like really upset and very eloquent
and very thoughtful.
yeah, if it's,
Yeah.
if it really deserves it. But I mean,
Well, you don't have 1 star, so not
yeah,
not your problem.
and I'm glad for that. uh with so like, let's talk about the process, like the
Mhm.
process of working together, because going through the process and everything, I know that like you've said it many times, throughout the course of us working together, after as well, like at least you've said to me, like, I'm a word of mouth person and I want to share a good experience everywhere,
Yep.
uh, with, and you've referred us to a bunch of different people that we ended up working with, a lot of founder collective people. Funny enough, I want to say that through you we ended up working with somebody who is twice backed by Andreessen Horowitz,
Wow,
uh,
heck yeah.
and somebody who I cannot say who, but I understand that they have a term sheet that they're negotiating right now from SoftBank.
Nice.
Nuts. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like you've referred us all over the place, but the question really is why? Like
hmm
what like why did you want to refer us? Because was there like a moment where you just sat there and you're like, okay, you know, this clearly has been what I thought it would be, and like as helpful, or at least at baseline, like they do what they say they do, or something. Was there a moment that was like a little aha for you, or like not really?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot at Eterneva in terms of building raving fans of our customers. And I think to build a raving fan, you actually have to exceed expectations. You shouldn't just, deliver what somebody was hoping for. I think it's about that, like going like truly above and beyond and them being like, oh my God, like I am blown away by the quality of what I just received. And I think that that's what you guys 100% do, because like from the initial kind of start, I was expecting just based off of reviews, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a deck that I'm proud of, that I'm happy to use. And, it's a good value and I'm going to feel good about it. I think the parts that you guys just kind of blew me away and exceeded my expectations was, first of all, your process is insane, like in a good way. I've never seen better process like
It's
anywhere in
crazy
my life.
because I don't think our process is really that great. It's
Oh my
like built by
God.
necessity, and
So
you know,
great. Like you literally are like, step one is it like you feel like you're being guided through a whole process. There's zero ambiguity. You know exactly what's expected of you. You're given your homework. Like it's like, we're gonna do this. If
you
you
get a
want
lot of
this done
homework.
in 2 weeks, yeah, you're great at homework. If you want this done in 2 weeks, which is phenomenal, being able to turn it that fast, like here's exactly how we're gonna get there. It's like how I always wished my piano teachers would be. Every time I would go to a piano lesson, they're always like, what do you want to work on? I'm like, don't you have a process for this? Like, I want to follow your process. Like, you guide me. And I think that that's what you guys do really well is like, you don't put the onus on your customer to like figure things out or what needs to change or next steps. Like, it's very, it flows really nicely. And then I think, from kind of the like how you've designed it makes sense. There's the right amount of iterations. Every single deliverable comes with like a voiceover video that you give, kind of explaining the why behind, what you've put together and how you've thought about it and what you incorporated, where you want to hear feedback from, and then I didn't really even expect initially when we were doing the deck together that you would put together a full pitch script as well. And that was amazing. Like I just loved being able to say, oh, okay, like here's how I'm going to pitch this. Here's what my 10-minute pitch sounds like. You had a video pitch that you put together and I was like,
But
damn, you
that's
nailed it.
but
It was
that's the
so
most important part of the process. I mean, like
great.
that's where the rubber really meets the road, because it's one thing to have, that document that's it's going to do the job. It's going to do whatever heavy lifting that you need, and
Yeah.
in terms of visuals and visual storytelling, right?
hmm
But in order to have it all fit together, I mean, the focus is on you.
Yeah.
So, and you want the focus to be on you because you're the most fun part of what is Eterneva. So the spotlight should be on you, and when the spotlight's on you, you got to knock it out of the park. So that
100% tight. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like maybe the little sneakily undervalued thing that you only, once you get there, then you're like, oh yeah, that's how it
Mhm.
works, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to put it super succinctly, like I think that you guys, the value you bring is like you're a hands-on coach. It can be really like there's plenty of armchair advisors out there that are going to give you really high level feedback on like here's the, what you need to think about when pitching your series A, and they'll give you very high level. They're like look at your deck and be like, "Oh, I think you need to like talk about these things." It's a whole different thing for somebody to get in the trenches with you, bust out the pen, start marking up the deck and make it that much better. I think I can speak to our business well, but like putting together like a tight deck, like that is a very unique skill set that you guys have. And so being able to work with somebody who's super hands on and then they step back and they watch you do it and they like really coach and mentor and like help you shape it. you feel like an elite athlete that actually has hired a good trainer, to prepare them for, a major upcoming competition. So yeah, you're not just doing all your practice and training on your own, being like, well, hope I'm prepared.
I'll tell you, I felt really, really good in this process uh, when you sort of stepped back and said, "Hey, listen, we did the whole prep before we did the shoot for Shark Tank, and
Mhm.
so we drilled the questions, we tightened up the pitch, uh, we did a lot of background research into how do we do this and how do we go about this and but then you ratcheted it right back into, and that's what we're doing together with you for our Series A, because of course we need
100%.
that. And that kind of blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these are your moments, like in a company. There's like, these kind of make or break moments in your building of your company and the trajectory of your company. And so, like, why wouldn't you come into, a fundraise season without, like, with, you need to be like, okay, this is the Super Bowl. How are we going to win the Super Bowl? Like, I need to like be freaking ready for it. So yeah, you
and
guys
that
are
and that
Super Bowl
that
trained.
was what attracted me to working with you and your team from the beginning. Just the focus on, like, listen, we got to be prepared. And it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing when you can just like BS your way through it of like, yeah, no, we have to prep and we have to, we have to be ready. And then it's like, oh, here's 5, 10 other things that we're going to focus on instead of getting ready. So but it was just so clear of like, yeah, this is actually the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know to be honest and open, because as opposed to everything else I say, um, to be honest, uh, that was what made me want to invest in the first instance. It was because not only do you have a fantastic business and unit economics are fantastic and just everything stacks up. Most importantly, the product market fit and customer experience that you give. Case
Mm-hmm.
in point, right up there,
Oh.
like on the like you have to, your customer experience is out of this world. uh but the fact on the financing side of things that you wanted to be prepared, that
Mm-hmm.
you put your actions where your mouth is, it was just everything all lined up. And so it was, well, this company is going to be something, and it's going to be something big, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be 10, 20 years from now to for all of that to happen. It's happening now, and so now is the time, and let's do it. So that was what originally got me interested in working together with you guys on that front.
Mm-hmm.
But taking it back to like what actually happened in the raise, how so we finished our prep side of the process round about mid-April.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take in terms of like reaching out to investors uh, and stuff like that to get your first term sheet? And how did that whole and what's next process
Mm-hmm.
look?
Yeah, unfold. Well, and one more thought also on the preparation side, because I want to make sure that we like speak to the value of, we hired you guys to help us shape the deck and the pitch, and then we were so blown away by the experience and just like, oh my gosh, just the value that we got out of that, that we also hired you for the red team exercise and the Q&A prep, and yeah, like I could not recommend doing that, more to other founders, because I think it's like you can be really prepared for that first pitch and like nail the first pitch, and then if like you don't
Then it's
maintain
like,
that level
surprise,
of
here's all the
success,
questions.
yeah, like it can still go downhill from there. Even if you're nailing like your initial call, when you start getting into Q&A, if you're not ready to be like objection handling and on your game, it can still kill momentum and it can kill the deal and prevent you from getting a term sheet. So I think like I'm really glad we did that with you guys. I'm really glad we made that investment. And I would just encourage people to think about you guys as like an end-to-end fundraising, strategist and coach, because you really are
I'm gonna have to
holding.
write that one down.
You're holding the founder's hand like from the like beginning to finish of an entire fundraising process. And I think for like particularly first time founders or people raising their first seed or their first series A, like you actually don't even, you're still figuring out how does this process even work? What are the steps that go into it? And so if you don't really know kind of the dynamics of what happens after an initial pitch, how do kind of the partners start thinking about things behind the scenes? Could you influence how they start thinking about them? AKA sending them a video pitch and having other people watch it, things like that. You don't know what you don't know. And if your strategy isn't strong and tight, like again, you can do a great initial pitch and still not get the outcome you're looking for because you didn't know about the back half of the process. So I think that was just money incredibly well spent. We absolutely saw the value. And I think that was, again, an area that like I totally did not expect coming in. I just thought you guys were going to help us make a pretty like a nice deck. And
You
I
find that
really,
the feedback off of that was like super cutting, because that's what we've heard from others, that they were just like, wow, I wasn't expecting this, but thank you.
yeah, for real. I mean, it feels like you're the end-to-end fundraising like coach, and gosh, that's really comforting, honestly, to have kind of a backstop of like, hey, how would you think about this? Or how would you approach this? Or, just tightening how we even objection handle certain things. Like it's awesome.
But you're a first time founder, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how is it that you sort of had the foresight to be able to identify, like, okay, this is something we really really need to be prepared for? I mean, you did it previously
Mm-hmm.
with the whole Shark Tank process. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why did you do it then? Why did you do it now? Is it just something for you yourself, that you just want to be really prepared? I mean, because that always not everybody is like that. A lot of people are just sort of fly by the seat of the pants, like, I can do this, I got this. It struck me as a little bit different of you really want to be super prepared. Is that a thing, or like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's like it's very much how I'm wired. Like I hate being bad at things, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like figure out like who's really really good at that thing, and like how can I go learn from them, shortcut how I'm gonna do this, and make sure like my first time is pretty dang good. And so, but I really think like you should have that outlook when it comes to fundraising. The stakes are so high. Like you're giving up a lot of your company as part of this fundraise. It has major implications for like everybody that's involved in terms of the wealth creation and what their equity is worth. And so like, yeah, you kind of owe it to everybody to like actually put the work in and make sure you really can look at yourself at the end of the process and say like, that was my best effort. Like I left it all out on the field as part of that process. So
Did you leave it all out on the field in the Series A?
oh, hell yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had a great round. It was a really good round. Yeah. So yeah, going back to your original answer before I distracted us. Uh,
It's fine.
so we ended April 15th. And then I think we got our first term sheet May 14th. So pretty solid. Got a term sheet in
Money.
less than a month. Yeah. One of three. So we ended up with three term sheets, got to choose between them. And, I think that that's just a very humbling and awesome place to get to be. And, really negotiated the terms to where you want to see them and where it was kind of exceeded our expectations of where we hope to be. And, then really kind of balls more in your court, to make sure that you're just able to get the terms that you need. So.
Mhm. Was it a thing for you, when you were considering, which investor? Was it
Mhm.
more of a look for you at, you know, because there's always, I view it as there's always a continuum of fit versus, financial fit, right? So interpersonal
Yep.
and strategic, let's say, fit versus the financial fit, because obviously they can be strategic as all hell, but if the money isn't right, then it doesn't make sense. What
Right.
what were the things that you were most looking for in an incoming investor, that that just like stood out to you,
Mhm.
of this is what we want? uh,
Yeah, totally. I think most important was really strong consumer DNA. I think, where we are located in Austin, we have some incredible angels behind us, like really, really strong founders that have had big exits. A lot come from tech, and my background's in tech. And so really building out our consumer DNA and our network and ensuring that our incoming board member is really, really strong with consumer brands and consumer companies, had some big wins there. So that was really important. We also wanted more coastal representation to continue to expand our networks in San Francisco and in New York. Again, as an Austin-based company, I think that is really, really important, particularly as you start to look down the road for, larger growth stage rounds. You
Yeah,
want that.
what's happening next round, that you got to have that foundation of, okay, we got a little bit of reach.
Yep.
We got some network that is wider than just than just one region, maybe.
100%. And like that, you kind of start building that reputation too, because people in Silicon Valley, if they see other Silicon Valley funds, that are invested in your company, like all of a sudden, they're kind of taking you more seriously. And so it's kind of an important signal as well. Is our lead investor going to be able to follow on? Do they have the capacity to follow on and the resources to follow on? How does the kind of dynamic feel between the company and the fund? Do they really believe in what we're doing? They believe in us and they believe in the vision? Or are they kind of still a little bit of a like, well, we'll see how it goes, yeah, we think we believe in it. And I think particularly for us, again, like we're so different that piece is really important, is we have to know that they fully believe and they're like, yep, we're bought in, like we believe in how you're approaching this. So that was key. And then, of course, financial is an aspect of it. I think you do hear sometimes like, focus more on the fund and not the financials. And I think that that's really sound advice, but there's definitely kind of a point at which certain economics just don't make sense, even if you're absolutely in love with the fund. And, unfortunately, we actually had one of those where it was like, we just could not get close to what, would have been kind of like where we needed to be. And so, we ended up with a really incredible outcome. But I think you do have to weigh all of those things together. It's really important.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, as far as the way that your pitch went, specifically that discussion with the one who just ended up not coming up with the right terms, was that I think I know the answer, but was that a pitch issue or a conversation issue, or was it more of just like a, let's say, fundamental misunderstanding of something in there that could have been handled? Like, could it have been handled, or was it just, we're on different wavelengths in terms of the valuation in terms that we expect? What was
it definitely was not a pitch issue. If anything, I think our process is what got us to the term sheet for sure. It was
How so?
because we actually did do the video pitch. The partner we worked with was amazing and really championed, that everybody that was a decision maker was a consensus-based firm. And so really wanted to ensure every single decision maker watched the pitch, in its entirety and some of our supplemental materials. So that's really what got us to the partnership pitch. And I think particularly in, for funds that are consensus driven, like Eterneva is even harder to get to the partner side, because again, there's going to be one person that has some dissonance about, whether they want to be in the space or not, whether they believe, in the product or not.
And
you
somebody,
really have
especially when they're getting the telephone game of through another person, and
That's
they're
right.
not
100%.
hearing the passion, not feeling it, and just it. I think once you get that extra connection away, the further you get away from the epicenter of your passion and power and
Mm-hmm.
everything, then you've got to fall off, and
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it it's tougher to convince
Yeah.
because not everybody knows how to pitch like you can.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that's, so it's like, okay, if you can pitch and you can like get to the partner pitch and you pitch that really well, then ultimately it comes down to, honestly, I think it does come down to kind of archetype fit, of we are going to be a riskier bet, if you will, compared to like we're category creating in a space that like kind of has never been done before. There's not good comps to say, what does this IPO at? But like, that's exactly where we're going. And, if you actually read Harvard Business Study, they find that the biggest IPOs are those that ended up category creating. So, there's more risk, but there is more reward. And so I think it's really gauging, is there that alignment, or are you perhaps being penalized with the valuation because, they're like, well, we don't really know what to expect here. So it's kind of, do a deal we're more comfortable with rather than what might be kind of the market price of what the company is worth. So I think that's where it kind of allows us to get a sense of, do they believe in how big we're planning to make this? And then how do we make sure we're bringing partners on that are like, yeah, we know this is a multi-billion-dollar outcome.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's what you ended up with in the end.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah,
So,
we're super excited. It's a
so
great group.
what's next then? I mean, you got a lot of a lot to do as far as I know. You've got a lot that you should be working on. What are the next milestones, and where are people going to see you, and hear about where you're going in the next weeks, months, years?
Yeah. So, a handful of things. First of all, we have both a direct consumer side of our business and the channel side of our business. On the D2C side, it's really about building a household brand, like the first recognizable brand in the end of life space.
Well, you're already doing a fantastic job via TikTok, but anyway, please continue.
Thank you. I agree. But I think the idea is to really cross the chasm from being a end of life category company to a true D2C darling, that is beloved as a consumer first brand, on par with like any other brand, that improves and enhances our lives. So, really want to see Eterneva along the lines of, the calms and the headspaces and the rituals of the world. And so that's really kind of a lot of brand building efforts on our direct to consumer side, and, thought leadership and kind of unpacking what is grief wellness and destigmatizing that conversation, with some pretty powerful voices that will be, behind us. And then on the channel side of our business, it's getting Eterneva offered through every funeral home in America. Because, for many people, everybody must go through a funeral home today.
It's still a huge part of the fabric.
It is like you have to plan your loved one's end of life, and to make arrangements. And the options that are offered at that point really do not match how people want to live and die today. They're not really personal and meaningful and representative of a celebration of life, which is, if you survey Americans, like that's what they want and that's what they're looking for. So we really want to be meeting people where they are and giving them an option that really will resonate, and give them a grief healing journey that is going to help them, beyond the funeral. It really serve them in finding meaning and healing. And then we also right now actually are about to announce our partnership with Regency, which is the largest, or they're the second largest end of life provider for pets. So they have funeral homes across the entire country for pets. They do a lot of individual pet cremation. So this is one of the fastest growing areas of the end of life space. And really it signifies that change in relationship that we're having to our pets. They become a member of our family. They're usually our first child before we have a human. And so, they deserve to be honored just in a meaningful way as a person is, and can be as important a connection. So being able to offer pet parents the same level of experience is super important to us.
So knocking it out of the park and solidifying the position in D2C, in funeral homes everywhere. And on top of that, you're going to be just doing massive things in partnerships on the pet side of things too.
That's right. 100%.
Sounds like you got a lot of work to do.
We do. It's exciting.
Sorry.
We've got resources to go do it. So that's exciting.
Hey, at least exactly. Okay. So silver linings, that didn't take very long.
It did not. No. Yeah. I think we set some records for ourselves. So that was great.
I'm going to go ahead and guess that just from, the investor hat on, I want to guess and say the papering of the deal actually took longer than the process of getting to a term sheet, right?
Much. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think term sheets was about a month, and then getting to a closed deal about 2.
Wow.
Bad.
Every founder's dream. Every
Yeah.
founder's dream.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, if you're prepared, look at what can happen.
It's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then, for anybody who is watching and wants to find out more about Eterneva and what you guys are up to, and how to learn more
Yeah.
about this special journey that you've created, then where do they go? What do they do?
First, I would absolutely recommend following us on both Instagram and on TikTok. Our handle is just at Eterneva, ETERNEV as in Victor A. And then if you are interested in kind of exploring the process a bit further, and maybe somebody that would really resonate with this, our website is a wonderful resource as well and has a lot of educational content. So that's just eterneva.com.
You said it, eterneva.com, right?
Eterneva.com. That's right. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, then everybody, run over there and find out everything about what Eterneva is all about. Adelle, thank you so much for coming on, and it's just been the most fantastic process to work together, and I'm looking forward to seeing some massive things in the future.
You're so welcome. And seriously, if you're a founder and you've made it to this point, like I'm telling you, this is a 100% worthwhile investment, one of the best investments we've made. So do it. It's totally worth it.
Thank you.